Hey, hi. I'm Floyd Rosini, the journeyman's son, and I'm really glad to have you back. Glad to have you back because I got a real treat for you today. We're going to do some waxing on a whole piece of furniture. We're going to wax it from top to bottom, and I'm going to show you how to turn this piece of furniture into this just by waxing with a tinted wax. That's really kind of an exciting thing to have happen. In the process of the waxing, I'm going to show you some of the things that we can do to make the drawers run a little smoother. We'll wax the bottom runners. I'm going to show you all of that. I'm not sure we'll do any touch-up or repair work, but we're going to get into it for waxing so that you'll know how to do it from top to bottom, from beginning to end. Okay? Looking forward to this. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is protect the rug. Is we're going to want to make a sample right here to see what the color is going to look like. We're going to use a brown mahogany wax on this and see how the color comes out. If we really like it, then we're going to do the whole thing. Now this is walnut, and it's a kind of a golden walnut, but I'm really wanting to give it a little bit more depth, make it a little darker and a little bit more rich, have a little bit more warmth to it. So now you can see that these parts down here, the framing is actually a little bit darker than the drawers, which is fine. That frames the drawers. It makes it look really good. So I'm going to glove up and get some wax on here so we can see what it looks like. This is going to be our sample, and it'll help us decide if we're going to pursue making the whole thing a little darker. I don't need a big piece of cheesecloth, so I'm going to tear off a small piece. And make a little pad. Tuck it in, real nice. Get some wax. I'm going to put that right on here. See, it doesn't change it a lot, but it did make it a little bit deeper. How nice is that? Okay, now the grain you can see is running from left to right on here, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to wipe it on left to right. And I think I really like that. So we'll just let that set for a minute. While I show you a couple other things we can do in the meantime. We'll let it dry and then we'll buff it. We'll see how it looks. Okay, so one of the things we're going to want to do is wax the drawer runners. That way, when we put it back together, it'll slide real nice and easy. So let me show you how we do that. Okay, one of the things you have to do is you're going to have to empty the drawer in order to do the bottom side. Now you can pull it out, as far as it'll go and do the runners, but you really want to get these inside runners as well. And so we don't use the dark wax for that. We use a clear wax. We've been using my American Custom Paste Wax. This is the neutral. It's absolutely crystal clear. We'll take another cloth, make a nice pad, and then you just take a little bit on the end. So you don't have to get a lot. You just take a little bit and get it inside. Get it on the drawer runner. Now, one of the things you have to be careful when you do this, because you could get splinters. Now, I refinished this maybe 10, 15 years ago, and we finished the inside as well. So it got sanded really nicely and then waxed up really well, but it hasn't been done since. So I'm going to re-wax it because the drawers have been operating. So everything on the inside here, I'm going to put some wax on with the clear. And then, you can see it's got some dirt, so it's nice. We're cleaning it up at the same time. And we're going to do these runners here. Now, if you do them at do your own at home, you be really careful because there could be splinters and you don't want to get splinters in your fingers. So you take your cloth, you get a little wax on it, and you just gently glide it down. Just glide it down, glide it across the front. Put a little wax on there. Now, if they're nice and smooth, you can give them a good rub. Nothing wrong with that. See what happens? It really gets dark from tracking on the wood. Okay, so we're going to just leave that, set that aside. We're going to do all the drawers like that so that they're all nice and waxed up and clean. That's the first thing you do, is we get the drawers all cleaned up and waxed up. Okay, so I got my brush. Now these, I just got these brushes. I just got a new shipment of brushes in, and these are beautiful. These are boar's bristle brushes with a fiber ferrule, no metal, and a wood handle. And the wood handle is got a finish on it. Beautiful. These are beautiful brushes. You'll find them on my website. These are great for applying wax, rejuvenator, when you're cleaning, when you're dusting, when you're waxing to get in the corners. So I just wanted to show you this. We're going to be using this here to get in the corners. And we wax this, and usually I like to let wax dry a long time. Let it dry for about a half an hour. So we're going to give it a light buff, and that way you'll be able to see the little bit of change that it made. Nice shine. Just a little tiny bit darker. So we're going to do the whole thing. I'm going to set the camera up and I'm going to wax the whole thing. You can watch me do it. Okay, I'm going to show you how I take these knobs off. Because they're only screwed in, I can just turn them and unscrew them. And push the screw out the back. And then put it back together so that we have them saved, the parts all together, each part for each piece. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these knobs off the whole thing, and then we'll get back. So I got all the knobs off, and I pushed all the drawers back in. I'm going to use 2 small screwdrivers to open the drawers. I'll use a single one for the single drawer. I can open them up with the screwdriver like that. Just put it inside the holes like that, and then you kind of lift up on them and pull the drawer out. That works really well. You can use another tool that'll fit in the hole, but make sure you have 2, because if you try to do it with one, it'll cock the drawer and you won't be able to get it open very well. So this way I have it all in. And what I'm going to start with first is I'm going to start with the frame, do these insides, do these edges, then I'll pull the drawers out and I'll do the drawer fronts. And I'm going to use that small cloth that I started off with. And I'm going to have my brush in my hand with a little bit of wax on it. Give it a rub. Make sure you do it in circles and then do the whole thing. Slide it down. I'm going to go over that again. Make sure you get a good amount of wax on there. In circles, slide it, and then go with the grain. Just and that wax can stay like that. That's great. Now I'm going to go forward and do the front. We'll do the top last. This is where we're going to use the brush. Get it right in these corners here, on that frame on the inside there. Get plenty of wax on there. This way you can hit right on the inside of the drawers too, because where the drawers come in and out, sometimes you'll get a white spot right at the edge. And so you can get your brush in there with the wax, the tinted wax, and it'll color that right in. Also, if you have any nicks on the dresser, this will color those nicks and scratches in. All right. I'll do this other side here. Now I'm only going to do the face for you. I'll do the sides off camera. I just want you to see how this works so you can do it yourself. Circles, always put it on with circles, and then straighten it out with the grain as best you can. Now this is where you're going to see the biggest change come in, when we start to do the drawer faces. I like to do the top edge as well. I'll tell you a little story about this chest of drawers. My grandfather was in the business as well. He learned this trade here in America when he came over from Italy back in 1917. And when he got his own shop, he would go out and he would look for old pieces of furniture that he could get in secondhand stores. This is one of them. And so I was blessed enough to be able to get this. It was in the shop where my father and my uncle and my grandpa worked. And it was in a showroom and it was for sale. And I asked if I could buy it. And my grandpa gave it to me. So now I'm going to do this middle drawer and get two. And this is Circassian walnut. It was made in the 1930s, so it's not 100 years old yet, but it is 90. So it still looks good for 90. It's still working great. I use it every day. I keep all my clothes in it. Now watch this. Yeah, it just changes that, tones it up nice. And then with the grain. I put the knobs inside the drawers so that they would be in the space where I removed them from. So each knob is behind the hole in the drawer. I kept them there so that I wouldn't make a mistake putting them in another spot. Try to keep everything in order. Now you can see this piece of furniture, how the graining runs in a V here, and it runs in a V here, and that looks like the trunk of the tree here. Now if you mix these drawers up, you would lose all of that. So you have to keep an eye on exactly what's going on with your furniture so that you can keep, because if you took all the drawers out and did them separately and then put them back, make sure you put them back in the same spot they came out of. Okay, next drawer. Unfortunately, I do not have a key for these. I could make a key. I haven't done that because I don't lock my drawers. And if somebody broke in my house and they wanted to get in the drawer because it was locked and they thought something valuable was in there, guess what they would do? They would totally rip it apart. And there isn't anything valuable in here. You know, my shorts are in here. So if you get a little extra wax inside the keyhole, make sure you take your brush and just brush it out. Get it out of there. Okay. Can you see the difference? Can you see the difference in the color? It just adds a little bit of tint to it. It really gives it some depth, and it warms it up. Now, I could have used a darker wax too and made it even darker. But I just wanted a little bit of a shift, and I wanted to be able to show you how to wax a whole piece of furniture. So you don't want to get a lot of wax on your red. You want to get enough on that you can spread it out, put it on in circles, rub it around. Make sure you get the whole drawer. You want to make sure you get everything. And then clean that out, and then follow the grain. This wax is just fabulous to work with. It's so soft and so smooth. It's really beautiful. Okay, last drawer. See the difference from one side to the other. Okay, now I'm going to do the top. I'll move the camera in, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, this top is what they call book matched. It's a book matched veneer. So you'll see a split right here, and they take this part here. When they cut the veneer, they slice it thin and then fold it over, and you get this beautiful pattern of a book match up here. So it's just a pretty top. And it's got some little nicks in it. You know, I put all my pocket change, I carry a pocket knife, all that stuff goes up there. And over time, it chips it, leaves little white marks. Not bad, but I can see it every time I come in. And so you wax it up. You want to make sure you get a good amount of wax on your cloth. And start in the back. Do a little figure eight. Some circles. Stretch it out really good. And get a little more wax. And make sure you have enough wax to do it. And stretch it out real nice, and then go from end to end, left to right. Straighten out all your circles, all your figure eights. Follow with the grain as best you can. That looks beautiful, just beautiful. Okay, and then do the edges. Now remember, the tinted wax, if you have some damages on the piece, it'll color them in. Tinted wax is great. It will color them in. Front and the top is done. I'm going to turn the camera off and finish up the sides, and then we'll wait. I got a fan in the room, so I'm going to turn it on high, maybe give it about an hour, and then we'll come back and buff. So when you get finished waxing, you want to look the piece over and make sure that everything is pretty even. If you look at the piece here, I'm not sure if you can tell from the stretcher here, this particular one is really pretty light. And so if you have a really light spot, you can take your wax cloth and you can just dab it. Because it still has a little wax on it, you just dab it a little bit and you'll see some wax come off on it. And then once you get it on, you just stretch it through and you let it dry. And when you go to buff it, you buff it very lightly so you don't pull all the wax off, and it'll stay that color. So that's a really important technique that you can use to darken the lighter areas. So once I do that, it blends right in. Much better. Now they all look pretty even. So I've let this sit for a while now, and I just don't think it's ready to buff. I really like the wax to harden up so that when I buff it, I don't get a lot of excess. I don't know, you can see the red here. I tried buffing a section and a lot of wax came off, you know, on the sides. And so those are not quite as important as the front, because that's the part that everybody looks at. The sides always end up being in the shadow. So I don't mind that happened over there on the sides, but I don't want that to happen on the front. I'm going to let this dry overnight and then we'll buff it tomorrow. But the rest of the drawers and the casing and the top, they look great. And so we'll buff them tomorrow. And then when we put the hardware on, once we get it on, then we'll be able to do the faces of those knobs. All right, so I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, good morning. All right, we're back. And we're going to buff it out today. I'm going to take a clean cheesecloth wipe, fold it up, make a nice pad out of it. Tuck it in around the edges, make a nice pad, and let's take a look and see how it starts. Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. Get a little bit excess, not too bad. Okay, when you buff, it's just pretty much the same as when you apply the wax. Just give it a nice brisk rub. You can rub a little bit across the grain at first, you know, just to get it started, and then you finish off with the grain. Make sure you get the bottom edge and you get that top edge really good, and the sides, because sometimes the excess wax rolls over and you don't want to have that there. You know, later on when you're operating the drawers and you're putting clothes in and out, you don't want that to get on your clothing. So you want to make sure you wipe all those corners and edges right off. Now that looks really good. It's best when the wax dries overnight. It just hardens up really well. There's not a lot of excess to buff off, and it just leaves you a nice shine. If you buff off too early, you're going to pull most of the wax off. You never get the shine that you really like, and so you get disappointed with the job and how it turns out. Let the wax dry overnight. It may seem inconvenient, But in the long run, you know, down the road, after a month or 2 or 3, you're going to be glad that you did, because it's going to look so good. One of the things that you'll notice when you use your brush in these corners and cracks, you're going to get a lot of wax up in there. So you want to make sure you push your rag up in there and buff that and get it out. Get that excess wax out of there. You'll see it comes off on the cloth like that. See those dark streaks? That's from the excess wax getting up in there from the brush. So you want to make sure you clean that out. You don't want to leave excess wax behind. See, when you put that wax down in there, there's a lot, so you want to make sure you get that out. Then you follow with the grain. Give it a buff as you go down. And when your cloth gets a little bit dirty like that, you just fold it open, put a new face forward. Boy, that looks good. It's starting to really look nice. See, and you don't even have to rub hard. It just buffs right up so nicely. You know what, I think we'll get these knobs on too while we're doing this. Now the knobs were right here. I can just put them right back in. And then we'll put a little wax on these when we finish up. Okay, I won't bore you with putting all the knobs on. Well, we'll get these two on just so you can see. When you tighten them, you can use a screwdriver from the back to hold the screw in place and turn the knob so that it gets tight. That's it. You can see how the knobs are not the same color, and we can adjust that now when we actually do the waxing on them. Let me do that for you now so you can see, and then I'll buff the rest of this later. Remember how I told you can do a little dabbing when you wax them, and that's what we're going to do with that knob. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit on the face of this, and then we'll put a little bit on the face of this, and we'll dab it on, and then stretch it out. See that? hones it right in. We'll let that dry really good, just lightly buff it, and it'll be fine. I'm just going to buff this one more drawer off, and then I'm going to turn the camera off. I'll finish buffing it, put the knobs on, get some wax on them, and then we'll show you the end result, okay? Just so you can see how I do the buffing. Make sure you get these edges, and make sure you pick up all that excess. See that? You want it right around the edge. You want to make sure you get that and pick that up, and then you buff the drawer. That looks really, really nice. All right, I'm going to shut it down, and then I'll be back when we got it all together. Okay, so I finished buffing it out. I put some wax on the knobs after I attached them. And also, when you're putting on your hardware, or if you have wooden knobs, you know, sometimes you'll see there's graining in the knobs as well. You want to make sure that grain runs even with the grain that's running in the rest of the piece. That's how you want that to travel. So my grain is running from top to bottom, so the grain on my knobs is going to also run from top to bottom. If the graining on the drawers was running from left to right, then I'd want that graining in my knobs to run from left to right as well. Now, one of the things about waxing a piece of furniture, people say, well, how often do I need to wax it? This front part here, you won't need to wax this again at least another year or two. One of the things that you can do if it starts to look like, gee, it doesn't have that same shine, there's plenty of wax on there. Just give it another buffing, and that shine will come back up. Now, the only thing I didn't do was buff the top. I wanted to show you. I got a fresh cloth. I'm just going to buff the top. Okay, it's just a straight motion from left to right. Very little excess, especially for a dark wax. We'll buff it one more time, and that'll be it. It really looks beautiful. Put a little pressure on it, you know, you gotta put some muscle into it to get it to come out right. Make sure you do those edges. And then give it one more buff with a fresh face. And that's it. And I'll bring you in close so you can see it. There you go. That's how she looks. And just back up so you can see. Look at that. Look at that. Look at how stunning that looks. That is just beautiful. Whoa. All right. So there you go. That's how you wax them up. So thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate you being here. I do this for you so that you can learn how to do this on your own without the help of anyone else or without calling a professional. That way you can save yourself some money and really still get a great professional job. If you like what I'm doing here, give me a like and please subscribe. I would love to have you subscribe. Hit that bell button so you get notification whenever I have a new video come out. That bell button is the key. So thank you again and God bless you. Look forward to seeing you the next time.